Logistics networks are operating in a world of geopolitical volatility, cost pressure, and rising expectations for speed and reliability. AI has been on everyone's lips for years, but how many companies are actually using it in their day-to-day logistics operations? And more importantly, is it delivering results? To explore this question, Alpega partnered with Boston Consulting Group to survey shippers and logistics service providers on the real state of AI adoption in logistics. Today, I'm joined by Denise van der Voorde from Boston Consulting Group to discuss the findings. You're listening to Logistics Unlocked, bringing you inside the minds of supply chain and transportation experts. Welcome to the podcast, Denise.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Denise, I think our listeners will all agree that AI is a hot topic across industries. But let's look at the logistics sector. When it comes to it, is AI truly a strategic priority today, or is it still mostly a hype?
I think everyone will recognize that there's definitely a lot of hype in AI. For example, at BCG, we run a survey every quarter of names which are being mentioned in quarterly calls from analysts and management teams, and we see a lot of frequency of AI, mentions of AI. So there's definitely a lot of hype, but at the same time, AI is not hype. We're seeing impact across the board in the work that we're doing. We see also in the survey that we've run together of close to 200 companies, which was equally split between logistics service providers and shippers, that the vast majority consider AI to be a durable technology that will have meaningful impact in their business. For many, even that this would have transformational impact. And contrary to some areas where we see the people who would usually say, build it and they will come. And there's been many technologies of this type in the past. New concepts are rolling out more from a technology angle, and then there's a lack of demand. And here from the survey, we see that we are in the opposite situation. We see shippers has much higher expectations from AI than logistics service providers are currently delivering. So we're in a situation where demand is ahead of supply, and once solutions start rolling out, pickup should be pretty quick.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So looking at the report, when companies say they're investing in AI, what does it mean in practice? Just considering what you just mentioned, where are the most relevant use cases that are emerging today?
We're seeing really a broad set of use cases, and many companies are actually exploring use cases across the board. It includes, of course, more generic functions, whether it's customer service or efficiency of back office operations, but also very much at the core of transport and logistics firms, whether we speak of planning, whether we speak of forecasting, whether we speak of quality measurements. There's a wide range of use cases, and we see those use cases are fairly similar between shippers and logistics service providers. So we really have a transformational scope. Not at all confined to specific areas.
So if we think about 3 years ago, discussions about AI centered on whether the technology was ready and affordable. But today it's clear that it works and the costs are lower. So despite the potential benefits, the survey shows that many companies are still experimenting rather than fully deploying AI. Why is adoption still relatively limited despite the benefits?
Yes, that's very clear also coming out from the survey. So we have the vast majority of companies exploring AI, investing in AI. But what was coming out very strongly was that technology is no longer a question. The technology is there, it's reliable enough, it's cost effective enough to be relevant for a wide variety of use cases. But where it blocks is, number one, measuring the ROI. We're speaking about areas where ROI can be more difficult to measure, that where a lot of capex from transport and logistics firms typically goes, which may be warehouses or other physical assets. Also, we're speaking about process optimization, which in some cases fairly diffuse. We have impact in terms of customer satisfactions, we have impact in terms of specific cost savings, maybe on 4 portions of activities. So measuring it becomes one of the key hurdles, especially as to deploy it at scale, the capex involved would be more substantial. So the problem has really moved from more technology and do we manage to realize impact at the small scale to an organizational challenge which is how do we move these proof of concepts of pilots from a narrow scale to full scale and start really seeing meaningful P&L impact.
That's interesting. Following that, Denise, do we see differences between shippers and logistics service providers when it comes to the adoption? And maybe even more concrete, do we see a difference between regions in that adoption?
Overall, I think the pattern is, and also from the numbers that we've seen, right? The overall pattern is the same. The direction of travel is the same. This being said, there's some regional differences. Asia seems further ahead in terms of adoption. Europe seems a little bit behind, also mostly for these organizational topics that we were discussing. Moving from pilot to scaling and overcoming the fact that ROI is sometimes still difficult to really measure precisely. Getting organizational support to really scale seems to be a larger challenge in Europe at the moment. Considering that all over the world, the challenge is the same. We're looking at a very fragmented industry, and very few players in the industry can really do things on their own. Also, they have only a small part of the processes which are in-house, but many which are about interacting with an entire ecosystem, which need to be brought to the same level.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because we're always talking about implementing AI, but we're talking very little about the integration into the system or operational landscape thereof. So in the report, you suggest that the real value comes not of the isolated AI tools, but really integrated into the operational platforms like a TMS. Can you elaborate a little bit more on why this integration is such a strong key success factor?
I think if you disentangle what is required to build a successful AI solution, the foundation is data, and in many cases, real-time data is an enabler to do a lot more. So that's where integration in various systems is key, so that we get quality data directly from the source, and potentially also supplementing it with data from the market, be it like private data sources or even synthetic data, which can be built from various external sources and then assembled into a data set, which is then used as input for an AI application. So integration and data is really at the base, including making sure the data is of a high quality enough so that we can use it. And then after that, we can build additional layers. And then at the very end, when you're close to the output of what an AI solution can deliver, comes another question: what do we do with these outputs? Do we accept to plug it directly into other systems so that we can have a more autonomous system? Or does it go through a human operator for validation, check, control? In many cases, it's still useful to have some connection with an output system, even if there's a human validation, simply to make the process smoother and easier to operate. So we have strong integration needs throughout. I mean, these solutions really come on top of existing IT infrastructure, and that should not be seen as standalone.
You mentioned the human operator, and I think this is a very interesting factor given the public debate around AI, which is its impact on jobs. What does your research show about how logistics companies expect AI to affect their workforce?
That's an interesting one. There's a lot of debate right now about the impact of AI on jobs, and rightly so. I mean, there's some activities which we can see can become much more productive through AI. This being said, from the survey, the vast majority of respondents see the need as being much more on reskilling than on any sort of headcount change. And this is very true, I think, from the work we're doing in this space for two reasons. I think one is that in few cases, we can have AI being a fully autonomous system. Usually they will supplement the human in many cases, but especially in the logistics industry, where most people are actually exception handlers, much more than conducting activities, leaving all exceptions to AI is a dangerous proposition. So I think that's one angle. The other angle is that with the additional workforce or labor that we can save, we can redeploy them to become a much stronger company. And some companies are seeing opportunities there so that we get much more impact from AI than cost savings. Although I must say, I think from the survey, the vast majority of focus seems to be on cost right now.
That's interesting. So the bottom line is that by reskilling the workforce, we're basically using them to focus more on the high value tasks rather than the tasks that can be taken over by AI. So we've touched upon a lot of interesting topics so far. So to summarize a bit, Denise, what are the keys to success you believe that will differentiate companies that successfully deploy AI from those that struggle?
Mm. I think first setting the scene, and that was coming out very strongly from the survey. Most companies are exploring right now, piloting, developing use cases, showing impact at limited scale. The ones which are able to scale first will definitely be in a good position. And to get there, I think it requires to fix and to address a number of points. I think the measurement point, which we see is a key hurdle right now. How do we
Hmm.
make sure to get the organization to accept and be comfortable investing in AI solutions at scale for technologies where ROI is still sometimes complex to measure, but also making sure that we don't invest in areas which will not have a very good payback. This is probably the number one area to address. Then I think integration, as you mentioned, making sure that we have strongly integrated systems so that AI can scale not in a standalone, but really impact day-to-day operations would be a second element. The data aspect is the third one, which really requires solving it from day one. We need sufficiently high quality data and making sure that we have data sets which enable us to maximize the output, potentially internal data sets, but also external data sets which can supplement. And the fourth one, I think, is around people. We get a lot of questions from clients also that are concerned that the technology of today may not be the technology of tomorrow, which is very true considering the pace of advancement in AI technologies at this point. But the people element is the one where there's only one way, and there's never a new technology coming up. The more we manage to train the teams to use AI and work effectively with technology, the better off we are also for the next wave of technology or the next progress, which may be a matter of weeks or a matter of months. And then finally, once we've succeeded doing all this, the ultimate objective is to strengthen competitive position. And so managing to ensure that we build AI in a way that's differentiated is a key element, which could mean proprietary data sets, which could mean an AI trained workforce at scale, which could mean new propositions which are very intricately linked with some other capabilities of the companies. Because an AI solution standalone is likely to be very easy to replicate in the longer term.
Hmm. I think those are all great points, Denise. So to make it a bit more tangible for our listeners, do you have examples of companies that are already seeing measurable results from AI in logistics?
Absolutely. I think it was from the survey we've already seen there's dozens of companies that claim impact at scale. And whether we look at areas like forecasting labor needs, for example, people developing forecasts which are more precise so that companies know better how many extra people to hire in a specific day to conduct their activities. That's one area where there's very tangible impact. There may be other impacts, for example, on receiving a request in the marketplace sort of context. If you receive requests, which are right now often handled by email or with human operators, if you have engines that go through these requests and identify the ones which the company is best served to fit, and even potentially estimate prices or how it can best serve them, here we can have a commercial engine which is a lot more effective. So these are two areas, but really, whichever activity we're looking at, there's opportunities to be pursued, and many companies are already piloting those.
Those are great examples, Denise. Thank you for sharing those. Now, before we wrap it up, I'd like to end with your advice to our audience. What is one industry rule you would change?
Well, what I've often heard in the many years of the industry and past experience is that it is like the carpenter, measure twice, cut once. And so we come from an industry where we did lots of planning and then we execute. We know that there's also an industry that has continuous changes. But with AI, I think we're able to blur these two a lot more. because we can replan, optimize continuously. And therefore, we no longer need to spend as much time planning. We only plan for decisions which are really structural in nature. But for all the others, we'll start having capabilities to adjust a lot more on the go and build a much more agile and resilient industry.
So be more flexible to be agile and resilient. I really like that. I really like that. So if there was one piece of advice you could give to our audience, what would it be?
I think there's an element about going beyond pilots. It was one of the key areas of the study. This really investing more. There's opportunities. Some companies are doing it. There's major hurdles, but looking at how to address those hurdles to step up, I think, is the most important area. We see here with the amount of research and experimentation going on, the leaders of tomorrow are probably being defined today, whether it is large companies or startups. So now is the moment to invest more in exploring the full potential of these technologies.
That's great advice, Denise. Thank you very much for joining us today. And to our audience, if you like what you've heard, please subscribe. Thank you for listening, and until the next one.